Hello, everybody. My name is Kara Toby. I am I have got she, her pronouns. I'm located here in Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm co-chair of the Green New Deal Campaign Commission, which is one of DSA's priority campaigns in working on winning a Green New Deal from coast to coast. And I'm really excited today to spend time with you all and to hear from the organizers and the elected DSA electeds from themselves who have spent the last 4+ years working tirelessly to win a Green New Deal in New York. The Green New Deal is beginning now, and the socialists were the one. Socialists made it happen, and it's not going to stop there. We're going to keep going. We're going to win a Green New Deal everywhere. So we'll go ahead into the next slide here. So for those of you who might not know, you may have seen the news, but just a couple of weeks ago on May Day, New York socialists from across the state of New York won the biggest Green New Deal win in U.S. history. This is a very big deal, y'all. This is the very first time that we've been able to do this. And it was socialists who made it happen. I'm really excited to walk through and all of this with you all. We're going to learn from the organizers themselves, who did it, who made this happen. And then we're going to learn about how we can make it happen everywhere in Kentucky and California, Gulf Coast, up to Minnesota. We're going to win a Green New Deal. So first, though, we are DSA. We are the Democratic Socialists of America. What is DSA? For those of you who don't know, we are, feel free to go to the next slide. We are the largest socialist organization the United States has seen in generations. That is amazing. We've got nearly 100,000 members in all 50 states and abroad. Just like unions, we are dues paying members. We are not hired staff. We're not volunteers. We are donating, not donating, we are putting in our time and our money to building a socialist better future. And why is this important? Democracy. We have a say in how we operate and what we're doing as we grow and move forward. Most left and progressive organizations that are out there, they're funded by large donors, big dollar amounts, right? But and that means that those large donors can determine the direction that the organization goes in instead of the members. But DSA is not like that. We are ran by our members. We are funded by our members. And so we can democratically decide our own direction. We are fighting, what makes DSA different, we're fighting for our full transformational vision. We are not going to water down or compromise what we are fighting for. We can be confrontational towards any power that is out there that we know is keeping us down, and we are not afraid to call any of them out. We are ready to stand up and say, absolutely not. We're electing movement candidates, people just like ourselves that are members ready to fight and stand up and be the voice that we need in office in order to make the socialist vision a thing and reality. And we have a dedicated base of members. There's a lot of us here. I mean, look at how many of us are on this call right now, right? We're about 300 people joining us just on this Zoom, and that's just a drop in the bucket. We're here and we're ready to fight, right? We're spending our time ready to fight. So that's why DSA were able to win the biggest Green New Deal victory in United States history so far. This is just the beginning. So we're going to throw up a poll here in just a second. We want to know, are you a DSA member? Fill that out. Let us know, are you in DSA? And if you're not in DSA, why not? Join us. We just made this happen. You can be part of that win too. So go ahead and fill out that poll here. If you're not in DSA, we're going to drop some links in the chat here. So it'll be really easy for you just to join right now. Super simple. We are going to continue to plug that in the chat. So if you miss it now, we'll get you in the end. Love to see all the roses. All right. Perfect here. I think we're ready to go ahead and close the poll. Amazing. There are definitely some folks here on the call to see, wow, 84% are DSA members on this call. It's so exciting, but there's a few of you who are not yet. So go ahead and join. I'm going to go ahead and pass this off here to learn a little bit more about what specifically did DSA just win. So Stylianos, feel free to take it away.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. I see the vibes in the chat are strong. I love seeing the reactions come in. Thank you so much, Kara, for getting us started. So let's get right into it. What did we win? Let's take a look at the next slide. So we won build public renewables. I'm imagining you're all clapping as I say this. And what is build public renewables? When I texted a lot of folks to come out tonight, I got a lot of questions. What is BPRA? And I was like, oh my God, you should come Sunday. We're going to tell you, you're going to find out. Let's go to the next slide to learn what it is. How it works. The Build Public Renewables Act, or NYPA, empowers the publicly owned New York Power Authority. I said or NYPA, I meant or BPRA. Empowers the publicly owned New York Power Authority, NYPA, to build the wind and solar that we need in a process guided by the people. What does BPRA do? Here you see on your screen 6 different principles of the law. We have to say law now, by the way, because it's law. It's no longer just a bill. It is a mandate to build, ordering the New York Power Authority to build the renewable energy that we need. Public ownership, guaranteeing that every single thing is publicly owned. Labor and a just transition, some gold standard labor language. It will lower people's energy bills. It's going to close fossil fuel plants early. And all of this is happening through democratic planning. And we're going to take a look into all 6 of these in a moment. Let's go through it. Next slide. So mandate to build. NYPA right now, well, I can't say that anymore. NYPA a few weeks ago was not allowed to build renewable energy. Part of this was because of this neoliberal turn in the last century where politicians said, we need to support the private industry. We need to support the private market. We need to give our corporate allies a leg up. And so they took this authority that was created by FDR to harness hydroelectric energy in upstate New York. And they said, NYPA is too good and too strong and too powerful. We need to restrain it so that the private market can do its job. So the private market did its job, and now New York is overwhelmingly powered by fossil fuels, and we are at 4% wind and solar energy. The only reason we're even close to a certain amount of renewable energy for our goals is because of the hydroelectric power that NYPA provides. NYPA is now authorized and directed, not just allowed, not just able to do so if the governor decides that she wants to, but the law requires that NYPA build the renewable energy we need to get to 70% renewable energy by 2030 and 100% by 2040. In addition to that, everything that it does will be publicly owned. There will not be an opportunity for a public-private partnership and some corporate partner to take a lot of profit or take a lot of the credit. There won't be opportunities of loopholes for NYPA to say, actually, this project won't be public. 100% publicly owned from start to finish. Next slide. Labor and just transition. Just transition is not just a phrase. It is now a law here in New York. We have what we've heard from the head of the statewide Labor Utility Commission, gold standard labor standards. And that's because the language was written by the New York State AFL-CIO. That's right, we got their attorneys to write our labor language. And it has a just transition that guarantees prevailing wage, diversity in hiring, retraining workers that are displaced, protecting union workers when they move over to the new jobs so that their pensions, their benefits, their salary, their position titles, all of those things stay the same. And if we cannot find them new jobs, protections even there, and guaranteeing that all of this new work that is created by building is going to be union made. It's going to lower energy bills. 2 different ways it's going to do that. Number 1, when you're not paying for gas energy, your bills are lower. Gas, as we've seen nationwide, leads to enormous bill spikes. And so as we close down expensive fossil fuel powered peaker plants, and as we close down other gas facilities, your bills are going to go down. It doesn't cost any money to get the sun or the wind to power your energy. And there's a program that automatically enrolls you. If you're a low or moderate income New Yorker, you don't have to figure out a complicated way to sign up. You're automatically enrolled in a discount program. So the revenue that is generated by all of these new projects that NYPA will build, it won't go to profit. It won't go to some corporate board of shareholders. It's going to go right back to working class New Yorkers. Next slide. And here are two really great ways to bookend the end of this. Closing down fossil fuels. Right now, NYPA actually owns what we call peaker plants. These are plants that operate at peak need, and they are particularly dirty, and especially to the immediate surroundings. And so we're requiring that all 7 of them be shut down and replaced with renewable energy by 2030, a 10-year shorter timeline than originally planned. A lot of these are in Black and brown communities here in New York State. And so what this really means for us is that by 2030, this law, is going to have a direct impact on children in those communities. In literally 7 years, we know that children are going to be growing up with less pollution. Children are going to be growing up without asthma because of something that we did. And all of this is happening through democratic planning. We really say it when we mean by the people, for the people. NYPA can't just do this with some bureaucrats in a room. It has to work with climate experts, with labor unions, with community leaders, environmental justice groups, and working class New Yorkers, regular people, so that every single plan it has is done in consultation by the people and is done for the benefit of the people. And I really have to say, for all of this, this is a major ideological difference than the normal type of climate legislation that's pushed and passed in Albany, which is the capital of New York, if you didn't know. It's kind of not just saying we need to move to renewable energy, we need to move away from fossil fuels, let's do that with a tax incentive, let's do that with cap and trade, let's do that with a complicated market-based scheme. It is turning all of that on its head. It's saying we need socialist policy. Capitalism got us into the climate crisis. Only socialism, public ownership, is going to take us out of it. And for how we did that in this very special organization called the Democratic Socialists of America, I'm turning it over to Gustavo.
Thanks, Dilianos. So I'm going to go over how we won this. What was the difference? What did this 4-year campaign look like? Next slide. So we know from the New Deal to the labor movement, no massive change was won all at once. And we need intermediate victories that can catapult us toward the next phase, the next step toward a Green New Deal and eventually socialism. And so we made a priority to pass transformative legislation. But we can't persuade the political establishment to pass a bill. They're incentivized not to do that. So we have to force them. We have to make them pass a bill. In this case, we understood that people in power were only going to listen to what we were saying. They were only going to listen to our demands in the halls of power if there was an angry mob on the outside forcing them to. And our socialists in office, they channel our outside pressure inside in Albany. So that's our inside-outside strategy. And that's, to me, what it means to act like a party. Michael Harrington, one of the founders of DSA, said in 1984, "We have in the US no political institution in which members work out a program which is presented to the public and in which the elected officials of that institution then follow out that program and pass it into law. It doesn't exist." What we need in the US is not a third party, a second party, or a first party, but a party. And I think that that's what we're moving toward. In this campaign, socialists wrote the bill, socialists organized internally for the bill, socialists ran for office on this issue, we ran their campaigns, we decided the priorities collectively, and this enabled a high degree of integration and coordination and a deep sense of democracy. Next slide. But it took years to get to that point. We first founded the Eco-Socialist Working Group in New York City DSA in 2017, and we really didn't know anything. Many of us were newcomers to politics back then. We had subcommittees devoted to many different campaigns, every issue possible. We joined coalitions trying to pull them left, but we didn't accomplish much. We were too split to succeed on any one thing. And the big coalitions didn't really listen to us. We didn't have power. We weren't bringing our own strategy to the table. What we did have was a base of very committed organizers, dedicated people who could turn out to rallies, hearings, meetings, and most of those other organizations couldn't match. Next slide. In 2018, we got our first breakthroughs in New York City DSA. We elected AOC, who introduced the Green New Deal, which gave us a focus and a long-term goal to work towards. At the state level, we elected Julia Salazar to the New York State Senate, our first socialist in office in Albany. And we started to focus on passing state bills in Albany. We realized we had more power there, it was more doable. And with the socialists in office, we didn't just have a better shot, but we had more information about how passing a bill even works. So at that point, we started thinking, instead of doing 10 things, we needed to put all of our energy into one, and we decided to vote on a priority campaign. Next slide. We developed 3 different options, different teams in the group, and we collectively discussed and voted on a campaign. And the winner was public power. To us, that meant some kind of public takeover of the energy system back then. The details weren't super clear at that point, but we did do one thing that was really important early on. After a series of very major blackouts in the city, we started to organize public anger around the blackouts, and legislators, some of them were interested in what we thought was the next step. And so we ended up writing 3 bills, and 2 of them would end up becoming BPRA. So it was our transformational eco-socialist vision that we, used as our roadmap from the beginning. We picked what we were fighting for, no one else. It wasn't some, moderate reform that we were following another group's lead on. We also picked how we would fight for it. Next slide, I'm going to pass it to Charlie.
Hello. Yeah, so we tried a lot of stuff to do this. Now that we had one thing to do, we went door knocking, canvassing after blackouts hit areas. We tried to have people call their elected officials to sign on to the bill. We tried phone banking, and it didn't really work. So we're like, let's stop doing stuff that doesn't work and try other stuff to get this bill passed. One of the things we tried was holding town halls. So this picture is in Astoria town hall, where we got like 100+ people. We got legislators coming who wanted to look good and look like they were standing up to Con Ed and all that stuff. And a lot of people on this call first got involved through this kind of stuff because it was so local and it connected you to larger work. One example of the kind of DSA difference is at this town hall, we had this pretty powerful legislator come who just kind of wanted the left cred, and he wasn't on the bills. So, in front of all these people, our host's like, so you're going to sponsor the bill then? Huh? And what is he going to say? And he had to say yes and sign on to the bill. And we just kind of bullied him right then and there into doing it. We also knew that we need backup from other organizations with specific skills, like understanding technical stuff, and people in other regions who had skills we didn't. So we started a coalition, but we made sure we were leading the coalition and not just the side partner who had no say. Next slide. And that was going pretty well. We were getting some support, but then the pandemic hit and we kind of had to just pause everything. So there was a lot of focus on a lot of protesting and the George Floyd uprisings, and across New York City, all of New York City DSA elected 5 more socialists to office in Albany, which made us a lot stronger. And while they're campaigning, the socialists in office talked about the bill, they raised the profile. Media just listens to people running for office more than us random people on this call are talking. But the biggest thing was it gave us a chance to plan. And there's really a small window of like 3 months where you can pass bills in New York. So we pretty much had 8 months to like strategize and make the most powerful campaign possible. And this is what really enabled us to build such a multifaceted campaign. Next slide. Yeah, so you can see on here, we power mapped like unions do. We're like, who's our targets? How do we move them? How do we get these people? What are we going to do when? I'm going to speed it up, but there's guys we have to move, but we can't pressure them, but we can pressure people that they care about. We also restructured everything into dedicated committees. So we had a strategy team, field team, communications team, onboarding, research. Next slide. And I'll throw it to Lawrence to talk about that.
Yeah, as part of this overall strategy and part of our reformulation and rethinking things, we, and also growing our power with now 5 socialists in office, we saw the need that we need to break beyond the bubble. We on the left as a whole, and DSA in particular, love our jargon, things like cadre, dialectical materialism, but it really doesn't speak to, or not language that's very common to everyday people. It's inherently inclusive and a little bit alienating. So if we want to win mass change, we need to speak to a mass audience with language that meets them where they're at. Instead of saying investor-owned utilities, saying corporations, saying ratepayers, just ordinary people. And instead of saying the NIPA bill, which some people would say the name of the actual bill itself, the Build Public Renewables Act. Because again, like Bernie and AOC do, we must tell a simple, clear, and moral story if we want people to get along on our program. This starts with also recognizing that messaging is strategy, and then having our entire active working group leadership come up with and workshop together the story and language to create our messaging guides so that everyone can tell the same simple, clear, moral story. Instead of saying decarbonize, decommodify, democratize, decolonize, which lovely alliteration as might will be, does seem a little bit, technical. Make it a real story. It's time to take our power back. And repeating it over and over again, because we know that's how our messaging breaks through. And we did this all as a combined arms approach, right? It's not just one little siloed like messaging team, it's everybody, because through this one message, we have our research team digging up dirt on our main targets, our field team targeting them and bringing out, knocking on doors to let people know about what's happening, and our onboarding to help direct people to the right teams and make sure no one is lost and not feeling like they're being utilized, because people want to join DSA, people want to activate, and we are onboarding to make sure that happens. Next slide, please. So, of course, like you said, in this stage of things, we're newcomers to power, right? We have a little bit of sway. We have people in office, but we don't know what we don't know. And we're constantly being told by others how things work. As socialists, we don't trust necessarily how the system works, but because we don't know exactly what we don't know yet, we have to work our way through. And as part of that, in New York, a bill has to pass in the Assembly, like the House of Reps, and the State Senate, like the Senate. We actually have, just like Congress, the bills have to be sponsored by a member of each house. And one sponsoring our bill in the Senate is none other than the head of the Energy Committee, Senator Kevin Parker, which you think would be a good thing, right? But here's the thing. He said he'd only move the bill through once we get enough sponsors. So we go through a massive field messaging campaign and knocking on doors, getting people to pressure their senators to sign on to the bill. But for some reason, even though there's actually a movement in the Assembly, we're getting Assembly members signing on, it's not really working in the Senate. And then as we have to learn more and more how the system works in Albany, we learned that actually most reps won't sponsor unless the lead sponsor tells them to. And Kevin Parker said he's not going to do it unless we get enough sponsors. So it's a chicken and the egg kind of situation, which goes to ultimately a point that I think everyone can learn from. Politicians lie to your face. They don't want to do good things. You have to make them. Next slide, please. So we saw that we had learned the rules And now it's time to take a time to break the rules and take our power back. We found through our research team that Senator Kevin Parker got the most fossil fuel money of anyone in Albany. And we saw it right now, that lead sponsor can kill a bill forever if they want to do it. And the conventional wisdom that was told to us was that you should not target your own lead sponsor, because it's the opposite of what things are done. You wine and dine them. You make the bill watered down so they can make it acceptable to them. But we're not insiders. We're organizers. And since he was going to kill the bill anyway, we made a decision that only DSA could make. Go scorched earth on him and all the other leaders who are supporting him. This is a whole combined arms approach. Research found and distilled the facts. Comms found creative ways to dramatize this information with viral Venmo boards you see to the right in the screen. Field turned people out to a massive rally where people were going to get arrested to make the news. Everyone served a strategic purpose to help us ruin his and New York's climate rep. Which all culminated in a large-scale rally that also secretly doubled as a surprise direct action. Next slide, please. So this thing you see here, this is actually a direct action and rally that was where we invited our city council candidates and a large action of massive people to take to the streets of New York. But what our opponents and the NYPD especially did not know was that we had a secret group of comrades who were going to deploy and take over the building right in front of the street right in front of the legislative offices of our targets, so that we could make this a spectacle, as you see right here. And this was an immense action. This is something that really got a lot of attention here and showed how we would make building public renewables a militant action. Next slide, please. This was a huge stretch of our capacity. We were, a small working group. There were many new leaders on board at this time. We couldn't have done all of this without all that time we had set beforehand to plan and build up our capacity. But here's the thing, it paid off. The massive splash put our campaign on the map. We got more coverage and more legislators who knew the bill. And this is, again, not just because we said it and we had people nicely doing it. We had direct action. We got people arrested. We forced the NYPD to salt people down, salt people's equipment off that we had done to lock down the street so that we can't just lift us off. There's a whole combined arms approach to make this work. Previously, and again, this was a big deal because before this, the main climate bill in Albany was a corporate-friendly carbon tax. And our efforts meant our socialist bill started taking its place. That being said, all that the noise and great stuff we got here did not get us close to passing the bill, fortunately, because our Senate sponsor wasn't just blocking us on Twitter, which, by the way, he still is. He was still blocking us in the Senate, too. And for that, next slide, we go to Daniel to tell us how we got the next way.
Hey, I'm Daniel. I use they, them pronouns. So we'll get back to the story of Kevin Parker in 1 second. But before we do, something was going on in Queens that was pretty interesting. So kind of on the side, we had heard that a company called NRG was trying to build a fracked gas plant in Astoria, Queens. And Astoria, Queens, for those of you who don't know, already has a ton of fossil fuel infrastructure. There's a giant natural gas plant that's right next to I think it's the largest housing development in the country. It's a public housing development in the country. It's really horrible. And this company, instead of shutting down their fossil fuel assets, wanted to build more fossil fuel assets and extend the life of their fossil fuel assets. So we started organizing against this. A couple of folks who lived in Queens started, talking to people about this, organizing against the plan. And they did a really great job of making this a national issue. Like, Congress people, Chuck Schumer himself, all came out against this plan. And this was something that was just going on in the background. Like, it wasn't a big public thing, but we made it public and we got the plant shut down. And that was our first taste of victory. And it was our first sense that A, we could do this, and B, that people were motivated by this. People are motivated by climate. People don't want their air poisoned by fossil fuels. People don't want to see their planet being slowly cooked like a rotisserie chicken. People want a better alternative, and we were providing that. So one thing that was really cool about this campaign was there had been lots of really great campaigns against fossil fuel infrastructure in New York State, but we were able to not only say, hey, don't build this plant, but we had our own alternative. We had a bill. It was written. It was ready to go. We said, don't build this plant, pass build public renewables instead. And that was huge. So another interesting thing happened while we were doing this campaign, which was that Tiffany Caban was running for city council in Astoria. And our members were, campaigning for her, knocking on doors for her. And we noticed that people knew about the plan, like not just people who we brought it, like not just when we brought it up in conversation, but like people we had just met were like, oh yeah, they're building this frack gas plant in my neighborhood. I don't want them to. We had reached those people. And that kind of showed us a couple things. It showed us that like climate and electoral politics could be combined, that people really cared about climate on just like a really personal issue. And that maybe we should lean more into electoral politics. So we kind of got together, we had our debrief, and we really were fixated on this wall that had been put up because our prime sponsor was not moving our bill forward. And we came up with an idea. Can we go to the next slide? So what we decided to do is we decided that we in order to get a bill passed, at least in Albany, you have to make it the bill everyone is talking about. There's thousands of bills every year that range from like protecting monkfish to like renaming soccer stadiums after some guy who lived 100 years ago. And we needed our bill to be the bill that everyone was talking about. We had to cut through the noise, and we had done an okay job of doing that, but we needed to exponentially grow our ability to just scream. So we knew that NYCDSA and other chapters in New York State were going to be running primary challenges against incumbent centrist corporatist Democrats. And we said, you know what? We want to be part of this. We want to run these candidates as climate candidates, and we want to make BPRA an election issue. We want to electoralize the issue. So this was really unorthodox. This hadn't really been done on a legislative campaign before, but we had proof that it worked from our campaign in Queens. So we talked about it, we formulated a campaign plan, and we discussed it democratically. The cornerstone of this plan was we decided we were going to primary Kevin Parker, that guy who was the prime sponsor of our bill, blocking our bill. And people told us at the time that we were crazy. They were like, this is a horrible idea. You're never going to get your bill passed. Parker's going to destroy you. You are idiots for doing this. But we knew from our SIOs, our socialists in office who were in Albany, that that wasn't true. That the thing that legislators responded to was pressure, and that they are all terrified of losing their jobs. So we built campaigns against a bunch of incumbents who were not supportive of the bill, with Kevin Parker being like at the top of that race. And we started working with the candidates to talk about climate. We started embedding in their campaigns, and we started crafting a narrative of this is a climate election. BPRA is a climate issue. So I just want to like really flag here that this was not something that like everyone agreed on at first. Like this was a pretty major pivot in our campaign strategy. This was a major escalation in our campaign strategy. We spent a lot of time talking about this, a lot of time debating this. People went back and forth. But finally, we crafted a plan. We took it to a vote. We voted to adopt this plan. And after we adopted it, we were all on board. Even the folks who maybe like had some doubts, or even the people who were straight up opposed, because that's what democracy is about. You come together, you have discussions, you take that vote, and after that vote happens, you're all united, even if you didn't necessarily agree with that. So before I pass it along, I really just want to emphasize that this strategy only worked because we had thousands of DSA members who were out there canvassing, knocking on doors, who were talking about climate, who were making credible threats against these shitty corporatist incumbents, who were making these corporatist incumbents afraid for their jobs. We could not have done that without DSA members. So that's why it's super important. We can drop a link in the chat that if you're not in DSA yet, join DSA, because this is what we do. Like when people come together as a mass movement, we can break through the walls that have been set up in our political system, and we can actually achieve really dramatic change. It's incredible what we can do. So if you're not in DSA yet, join DSA. If you're in DSA, but you didn't renew your dues, renew your dues. If you're in DSA, but like you're not coming to meetings, start coming to meetings. Like we win when we are all united together. So now I'm going to pass it to Assemblymember Sarahana Shrestha, the original climate champion herself, to talk about her race and awesome organizing in the Mid-Hudson Valley.
All right, my name is Sarahana Shrestha, and I got involved with Mid-Hudson Valley DSA as soon as I became a citizen, and I joined in 2020, and I was immediately attracted to the work of eco-socialists. I got roped into the Public Power Coalition work right away. So BPRA became my focus of organization as well. And at this point, it had already become a priority campaign for New York State chapters. So I was so pissed off about legislators simply not getting the point of this bill and being so hung up on relying on the private market and not having the imagination at all to think outside of that and to think about energy as public goods. I was really so furious that when I was I believe jokingly asked in the beginning to run for office, which I think initially was something that I would have never said yes to. But I was so pissed off about this bill not, passing in the assembly and people not getting it. I, joined many lobby calls with many legislators, including my own, including the person I ended up beating. And so I really embrace this bill as my campaign platform because as it happens in the Mid-Hudson Valley, we have one of the most horrible utilities, Central Hudson. It was already pretty bad, but as I was running for office, it had this giant meltdown with its new software system, and there's still an investigation going on, but people were really pissed at the private utilities. And we also have lots of people who fundamentally believe that the energy system is set up to be a scam, especially utilities. And we also have a lot of residents here who really, really care about our climate goals. So it was fairly easy for us to make this a center of our platform. But, as Lawrence was talking about earlier, we really talked about it not in a technical framework, but about really making it about who has power, how this affects the working class, and how our government is ultimately not serving us, and also very complacent, very lazy, very lacking in ambition, all of which things I can confirm now that I'm actually on the inside. It takes so much pressure to move anything. And I feel really, really empowered to be in the assembly right now because we can basically force a conversation and we can basically force our colleagues to listen to what we have to say on the inside. And that is really incredible and amazing. And it's also satisfying to see that the socialist policies that we are pushing are very popular and it's not a niche policy, and that we also have allies that are, outside of our socialist circle. So I ran against the person who said he would not co-sponsor this bill. I have a nice letter from him where he said, I will vote for it if it goes for a vote on the floor. Thank you for being a good citizen and all that. And I still have that letter, but I went to office to actually pass this bill.
Thank you so much, Sarah Hannah. Sarah Hannah is such an example on a really clear principle of this campaign and the organizers, and which is we all went all in, like everyone went all fucking in. Everyone risked their jobs. Everyone took other jobs. We put our bodies in the line, and we didn't only do it with people in New York. We did it in the whole entire country. We communicated and built these Green New Deal candidates across the country, build chapters, build skills across the country, building this historic legislation. And this is the power of a national movement. This is our national movement win. This is a step that we as National DSA did, and you did that. Like, if you're a dues-paying member, you did that. If you vote for candidates that support public power and public ownership, you did that. And there is a lot more to do. And so thank you so much to everyone in every single place that made a call or wrote a letter, lobbied, made a graphic. All of these things, each one of them are so important because we do build power together. So we can go to the next slide. Mr. Milo, who is a champion of Sarah Hannah's campaign and has been an incredible organizer and like leader. And, you know, one of the things that Lawrence mentioned was about strategy and thinking and like timelining and going through all of this. Oops, sorry guys. And what happened is that we did so good, things worked faster than we thought they would happen. The primary of Parker, we hadn't even had elections and he freaked out so hard, he let us pass the bill in the Senate. He unstuck the bill in the Senate. And then having Sarah Hannah on all of the other assembly campaigns, putting so much pressure, having such an incredible leader like Sarah Hannah, being able to really represent, I feel so represented by Sarah Hannah, and seeing an immigrant, someone that just became a citizen, take into the country of immigrants we are and like fighting for working class people was so inspiring to so many people. And it was really scary to people in power. And so, you know, we managed with Soren and all of our electeds to get, you know, this bill to the assembly floor. But then Carl Hasty decided to not give us the opportunity to pass this bill. And that was un problema muy grave. That was a big problem. And so, you know what we did? We lost real good and we were like, this is not it. A year ago, we were like, we did so good. We're so close. We got this. Let's have a couple of drinks and let's do this another year and see how we get this. Let's finish these elections. That's how we get that summer of crazy building public renewables. Hashtag building public renewables, #1 hashtag in New York. Engaging people that we had never, ever been engaged with. And the reason why people really came out was because they care, because climate is an issue that brings us together. And regardless of where we live, regardless of our gender, our background, climate affects all of us. And we made sure to make it clear that the status quo was no longer going to be acceptable. And no, we didn't win last summer, but we met a lot of goals that we did not expect to have met. And we really opened up the space to be able to do the work that we did this year. And Sarah Hannah won. And like really good socialists, we never felt like we were winning, even though we were winning. And as I saw Sarah Hannah speak, I was like, oh my God, it's the first time I feel the power of having won Sarah Hannah's campaign, because I was always just so angry we hadn't built public renewables. And so thank you so much, Sarah Hannah, for your work, for being an incredible representative. And I'm gonna pass it on to Brandon, who is also an incredible leader in this organization. And I am so thankful and grateful to all of you comrades and continue to fight with all of you. Brandon, get it done.
Thanks, Tefla. You know, you mentioned how we got BPRA to trend #1 last year in New York. That was a really big thing, a really big thing that happened in the campaign. Right now, I want to shout out the person who's live tweeting this stream right now. You're doing the Lord's work. Thank you so much. All right, so let's talk about the budget. You know, as of last summer, the elections hadn't even happened yet, and we had already become the top climate bill in New York, leapfrogging a lot of other bills that were being pushed from organizations with way more resources, a lot of nonprofits, and we almost passed BPRA last year. Sarah Hannah and Kristen Gonzalez won their elections, but the rest of our candidates didn't. So would all the momentum die? Of course not. The IRA passed through the federal budget, which is a mixed bag, a lot of really terrible things in that bill, but some good things, like funding for public power that changed the political landscape that we were working in. So we used that to our advantage. Then early this year, Governor Hochul passed BPRA Light into her budget proposal. It was trying to take from the momentum that we had built and to flip it into some neoliberal reformist nonsense. And, you know, even that only happened because we put so much effort into trashing her and the rest of the power players in Albany on climate and made her act to defend herself. Next slide. So the way bills pass in New York, right? Passing bills in legislative session is one way. That's what I think most people are familiar with. You know, you come up with a bill, it passes through sessions, and then you win, right? The other way to get a bill in is by including it in the budget. The governor has to write a budget every year, and then gets negotiated from January to April. And if you get into the budget, then you're a law. So the governor included a version that again, it was like a diet version, but it meant that some version of BPRA was going to pass this year. But we weren't okay with having our movement hijacked. We said, no, it had to be the full version, not this sabotage one. So, you know, by this point, our outside pressure had already helped elect more socialists into office, but also enabled actual DSA members, somebody here on this call today, to directly negotiate with the governor's staff. On the outside, New York DSA chapters folded BPRA into a larger budget campaign called Tax the Rich, which helped to up the pressure even more than it already had been. You know, from the street level all the way up to US Congress, we had Congress members coming together in what was called an unprecedented move to actually pressure the governor to do something good. So that happened too. Next slide. All right, so now let's talk about labor. Way back at the start, you know, we always knew that labor was going to be important, but we thought that we could just, you know, go to unions, just say, hey, like, we're doing a climate bill and we want it to benefit you, you know, what do you want? They didn't care. They had no reason to actually care who, you know, who we were, what we were doing. We hadn't really shown the power to pass anything. As we grew and as the campaign went on, we tried a whole lot of strategies and ultimately got unions representing over 1 million New Yorkers endorsing the bill. So when we made the bill viable enough that it could pass, the AFL-CIO came in to add what is the gold standard labor language that is now the law in New York State. So like I mentioned before, Governor Hochul has repeatedly tried to sabotage the bill, and we did not accept that. Over 4 years, we forced so many people out of the way. And to our surprise, we actually won over some true believers on the inside also. So you might think New York was okay on climate. I think we have a reputation around the country for being somewhat progressive, whatever that means. But we were actually terrible. We only had 4% wind and solar. We convinced some people inside the legislature that the only way to move from 4% to 70%, like we're trying to, BPRA was the only way. So they became actual proponents of the bill and championed it in ways that we didn't even expect. You know, we did a number of things to pressure the higher ups in Albany, including Governor Hochul. We got polls. We bought a billboard in Albany to shame her. We had our elected officials blasting her nonstop, mass social media and calling pressure. I know I made some memes, some other things, like a lot was going on. And it was the last thing that we managed to pass in the budget. Next slide, please. So the lesson, organizing gets the goods. This year on May Day, we won after 4 years going from, really just like a ragtag bunch of people who didn't know anything in a room to a statewide movement to pass the biggest Green New Deal program in the history of this country. So we tried everything. We made some mistakes, we learned, and eventually we united legislative, electoral, and labor organizing into a whole. And we planned, deliberated, strategized together a lot. For me personally, this is the most democratic campaign I've ever been a part of. You know, people have asked me just in the times of the past, like, hey, like, you know, who are the leaders of this? Like, who can I talk to? And it's like, there's, you know, there's several dozen. There is no one person, 2 people, 5 people. It really was all of us together. So, and we sought out everyone that we could to learn from, and we're still doing that. And we learned how to win. So I'm going to pass it back to Kara to get to the next step.
Awesome. Hi again, y'all. This is seriously, I think I got chills multiple times. Pretty sure I started crying at one point. This is so incredibly inspiring. Congratulations to all the New York comrades who made this happen all across the state. So exciting. But, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I'm here in Louisville, Kentucky, right? Like, I love that for y'all, but what about, we've got, you know, 49 other states. What can we do? You know what? We can make change happen. We can win a Green New Deal from coast to coast. So I'm going to pass it to my fellow GNDCC comrade and co-chair, Mark, to move us through here, learn how you can get involved.
Yeah, hey comrades, my name is Mark Krause. I am the co-chair of the Green New Deal Campaign Commission. And if you are pumped about this historic win for building public renewable energy and want to get campaigning for a Green New Deal in your chapter, the Green New Deal campaign got you with our Building for Power campaign. Next slide. We want to build a Green New Deal from coast to coast with chapter level campaigns focusing on 4 critical battlegrounds of housing, public transit, public power, and public spaces. Our Building for Power campaigns will make clean and renewable energy an immediate mandate for public power. Fight for green social housing to move towards sustainable and affordable homes as a human right. Push for expansive bus rapid transit, new rail lines, and better benefits for transit workers, and green our public schools with healthy classrooms and learning spaces for students, staff, and teachers. We are setting the agenda for what it means to fight for a Green New Deal with chapters like Milwaukee fighting for public power, Maine DSA campaigning for statewide public power that will be voted on this year. Chapters like Detroit, San Francisco, Louisville, LA, working on transit campaigns, Philly DSA carrying on a strong Green New Deal for public schools campaign, and chapters like San Diego, Twin Ports, Boston, Charlottesville, getting the groundwork ready to launch Build for Power campaigns. And anywhere there are DSA members, we are changing the world. In Montana and Kentucky, DSA helped defeat abortion bans. Metro DC DSA ended sub-minimum wages. A DSA member in Nebraska is filibustering the entire state to protect trans rights. DSA is powerful, y'all, and I am so proud of all our amazing wins. If you want to get involved with organizing for a Green New Deal, visit dsagnd.org or click the link in the Zoom chat. I'm now going to pass it over to my comrade, Leanna.
Thank you. So my name's Leanna. I'm from Mid-Hudson Valley DSA. And a few years ago, our chapter was very small. It was very rural and it only had a few members. Now we're reshaping the whole state's politics. It wasn't just electing Sarah Hanna that grew the chapter's power. It was how the chapter used the election to develop and grow membership. Most people's only interaction with politics is through elections. Running an accessible campaign reaches many people who share our values, but have never been involved with politics, and it brings them in for the first time. The structure of an election is a perfect path to growth. The Mid-Hudson Valley DSA's active membership grew 276% in the past year, and any chapter, anybody has the potential to do this. Next slide, please. So we are going to ask you to join DSA soon, but first, we just want to provide some perspective. This is a historic first. So while it can seem far from where you are in your life, DSA or not, remember, we spent years accomplishing basically nothing, but you don't have to start from zero like we did. We've learned so much, and so has the rest of DSA, and we're sharing it. Plus, there's even more stuff that we don't have the time to get into today or can't say in public. But Building for Power helps us get started. And the fact that we are a dues-paying organization is very powerful as well. Dues are funding everything, including this big Zoom call that we are all on right now. And with that, I will pass to Josh.
Hello, everyone. I am Josh K. He, him. I am from NYC DSA, and I was in leadership of New York City eco-socialists for several years. So I'm kind of here to talk about a really important element of DSA that I think often is not emphasized enough, which is community. So in the period of fighting for BPRA, the eco-social group went through so many struggles together, deliberation, planning, the most incredibly niche grudges against state politicians that you could imagine, fighting, just constantly fighting to try to get these bills passed, and many years of clearly the strategy advancing, but the pain of just not being there yet. Over this period, I really became very good friends with basically dozens of people through this. I've been at a bunch of their weddings. I've celebrated the birth of a bunch of their children. We play video games together sometimes. One thing that I think people understand but don't talk enough about is the ways that capitalism alienates us is not just in the more formal definition, but the brutal social alienation of capitalism and the destruction of community space, especially in the past few decades. And I think a healthy socialist movement like what DSA is building, especially in New York, rebuilds that. And that is a really beautiful thing when it actually comes to light. For me, it's especially personal because DSA has bookended, my involvement in DSA has been bookended by some very severe crises. I have been a member since 2017, I believe, but I was really heavily involved during the COVID pandemic. And for me, it was just a very crucial lifeline. It kind of let me meet people and grow and build out my community during a period where most other people I knew and most of my friends saw a lot of their lives shrink in very direct ways and lose people in their lives just due to lack of contact in ways that still manifest in terms of isolation. Whereas I felt that I really grew throughout it because I met so many new people who supported me and who I supported. If you can tell by my lack of eyebrows, so I was recently, a few months ago in December, diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma, and have been going through chemo for the last 4 or 5 months. To be clear, it's ended, and actually my outlook is pretty positive right now, so I'm feeling good. But throughout that period, DSA was an incredibly important source of solidarity to me, and I didn't really I knew the word solidarity, but I didn't know I hadn't experienced solidarity in that way before. There's really just innumerable ways in which I feel supported by this community. A really important one to me is because I've been immunocompromised, or at least at risk of it, is just one of the only ways I could really see people or do anything is just going on walks with people. And it's also really important to heal from the chemo and the other damage from the cancer. And I've had dozens and dozens and dozens, maybe up to 100 people within New York City DSA come out throughout weekdays and weekends, even when they had work, just to skip off and go on these walks with me. And they've been a huge just way for me to live something that feels like a normal life during this period. So DSA is a very important organization for me, and that's just kind of what I wanted to say. And I think this element of building this community through what are obviously going to be hard times is incredibly important and can't be understated. And next slide, I guess. I don't know who the next speaker is, sorry.
Up next, I think we have Zoran.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing that with all of us, Josh. That was really moving, and I'm so proud to be a part of the same organization as you. My name, everyone, is Zoran Mamdani. I am here in the place otherwise known as Mordor, Albany, but I am wearing some of the best merch that's ever been created in US political history. Shout outs to Sarah Hana's winning campaign. And I'm here because I just want to say that this is such an amazing, incredible campaign that we won. I'm still having trouble processing that we actually won it. And the only reason that we did was not because we had, incredible people on the inside, which, we do, but was because of the power that we've built on the outside and the way in which we've translated that into this very chamber of power, one that has for so long never been hospitable to ideas such as these. And I just think, we've gone through today of the different ways in which the Eco-Socialist Working Group of New York City DSA tore up the Albany playbook, whether it's primarying the bill sponsor, or it's printing out a Venmo illustration showing that the Speaker of the Assembly has taken a certain amount of money from fossil fuel interests, as well as the leader of the state Senate, as well as the governor of the state of New York, doing all of the things that we are told time and time again is too confrontational, it is too much, and most of all, it is not actually effective. And what we found is that when working people organize together, and most of all speak clearly as to what they want and what they deserve and what they know is possible, then we can fundamentally reshape the history of politics here in New York State. And I think it is so critical to know that none of this would have happened if even one person had stayed home, or if even one person had not participated in the actions that brought us to this point. And it isn't because we are special as New Yorkers, though I do love New York City and New York State. It's because we're DSA members. And that's what makes me so excited, because every single part of this is replicable across this entire country. Everyone, no matter where you are, you can make a phone call, you can be part of a phone bank, you can pay your dues, you can go to a rally, you can tell a legislator to fuck off, you can primary a legislator, you can become a legislator and still be on the inside and be told to fuck off by other legislators. And you can get to this point where we have become a model for what's possible elsewhere in this country. And it is not only the right thing, it is not only the thing that we want, but it is a necessary thing that other states now take the baton and inspire what we can do here. Because we believe in democracy, and that also must mean that every single state is seen as a leader in what is possible in this country, that we don't just look to this one. So I just want to say that I'm so thankful. We've been close to 300, more than 300 people on this call. It is lonely, it is isolating, but that is the nature of capitalism. And this call has just been so lovely. And I ask that the true way to keep this momentum going, and not just remember this is a lovely hour and some change on a Sunday night, is to join DSA and to go to those meetings that are a little bit too long. You're not quite sure what they're about, but trust me, they end up leading you to points such as these. So go to the meetings, pay your dues, join the phone banks, do whatever it is that interests you within the broad world of DSA across this country. And I really, really do appreciate it. And I can't wait to see each and every one of you take the action that we need to win socialism in our lifetime. So lots and lots of love, solidarity, and I can't wait to see you all out there.
Amazing. I am so inspired right now. My hype levels are off the charts. My name is Michelangelo. I was the field organizer on Sarah Hanna's campaign last year. I've been involved in the Build Public Renewables Act fight since 2019. It changed my life. DSA changed my life. And so I am honored to walk you all through how to join DSA. So let's get a little hype going for like why you should join a dues-paying, democratic, member-led socialist organization. So you're going to go to this link in the chat right now. This is the best time to join DSA. If you join today, you are getting in on the ground floor of work that your chapter can be organizing to pull off wins like the Build Public Renewables Act. I have another ask, though, in addition to if you are not a member yet joining right now, if you are already a member of DSA, we are going to ask you today to go to the same link and sign up to monthly income-based dues. This is really important for two reasons. A, it ensures that we are getting more dues, which is important for being able to pay for all the things like this call, like campaigns like the Build Public Renewables Act, supporting all the infrastructure your chapters need to be able to pull off winning campaigns like this. But the monthly dues are also important because your chapter gets a percentage of those dues that your chapter can use to be able to finance the work that you need to be doing at the local level to build your own campaigns. And so really, I think oftentimes like we kind of brush dues aside and we're like, oh yeah, we pay our dues, but dues is what sets DSA apart from pretty much every other organization in the climate left. It is why we were able to lead this insanely powerful socialist legislative campaign over the last 4 years. And it's what sets us apart from all these nonprofits that do a lot of good climate organizing, but are not doing socialist climate organizing. We can do that because we are a socialist organization that is fully funded by you, the members. The last thing I want to say is just really emphasizing that like Mid-Hudson Valley DSA, we had a like incredibly just game-changing experience working on this campaign, working on Sarah Hanna's campaign. And we're a small chapter. We have 350 members. We look like a lot of chapters across the country. And so I feel like there are a lot of people on this call of like the nearly 300 we had on this call over the last hour. Like I'm sure you all are coming from chapters that look a lot like ours, and you all have the potential to be able to lead campaigns like this and be a part of winning historic races and historic campaigns. But that only happens if you join DSA or if you get more involved in your chapter. And everyone who's here has the potential to be an amazing leader. So that's it. You really should join DSA, and you should do your income-based dues. If you don't, we're coming for you. Just kidding. But you really should do your income-based dues. Okay, I'm going to pass it back to Kara to close us out.
Hey, y'all, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. I know it's getting a little bit late, but honestly, this has been so inspiring and so incredible to see, to hear from all of our comrades in New York, and to hear from Mark about how we can get involved, even if you're not in New York, to start making some real change in your chapter, in your city, in your state, in your own communities. So again, join us, join DSA. If you're already in DSA, consider going to monthly based income-based dues. So amazing to see that there's already people who've switched their dues over to income-based. So exciting. Again, thank you all so much for being here. Last, I think if you all had not seen, there's a really incredible little hype video that has gone out on social media recently. Again, you can see more of the images from the various actions and the work that these comrades have done. This call also was recorded, so it's on Facebook Live. You can find it there. We're also going to email it out, since I know there's some comrades who were unable to make it tonight. But again, thank you all so much for being here. I'm so excited to win a Green New Deal from coast to coast with you all, my comrades. Let's go. Let's fucking go. Let's do this. Thank you all again. Have a wonderful night. Let's go win a Green New Deal. Let's go, y'all. Let's do it. Hype video.
You have to select on the share screen, the bottom, in the bottom, a little square that says share sound.
We're getting there. We're getting there. All right.
I actually don't think I can share sound. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. Well, you know what? That's all right. That is totally all right. There is a link to the video.
Not the link.
We've got a link to the video. We can definitely share that for you all. We'll put that in the chat. There we go. Awesome. It was shared. Yeah, go ahead, find that video. The visuals are pretty amazing. Y'all have got some incredible comms. Honestly, the comms are great because the people are great. The people, DSA members, made this happen. Literally, like there's David Alexis. So incredible. Really amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, and some of the stuff that you're seeing are marches where people got arrested, shut down streets. We got assembly members to get arrested with us. We got workers to hammer their buttons in support of public renewables in the middle of Manhattan. We shut down Manhattan for 2 hours, multiple years in a row. We worked on building the Green New Deal for Public Schools campaign too. We did a ton of work building relationships across the boroughs, building spaces for everyone to feel that the campaign was their own. Iyapa ran for office, Sarah Hannah won. Farah has been firing it up since day one. People went out there and asked others what was going on, how they felt about their public ownership, about public ownership of electricity and the hikes that are happening. Jenny brought a ton of energy. We even they had to bring in a special vehicle to cut out our comrades from their sit downs. And so, it was everyone.
And again, we can make this happen across the country. So if you are in a chapter that is running a G&D campaign, all right, you can join the GNDCC, and yeah, let's go.
Gracias a todos. See you
Can
at
we
the
get like
next.
some noise? Can
one.
everyone unmute? Can we get some celebratory noise here to close us out?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.